This is not doctor-recommended advice. This is not clinical or professional.
Sorry, Eastgate, for stealing some of your profits at the stage, but we figured out.
And I don't want them to watch because I'm just a guy.
The only real purpose that I had for bringing you onto this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is his very own game show, aka Find Love for Floris. You're listening to the Baascast. Yeah, it is better than it sounds.
G'day, welcome back to the Baascast. It's Baas de Beer and my treasured special, very much appreciated guest. Dit is Kabaal Klankbaan se voorsanger en of hooflid en of enigste lid, figuring that still out in the podcast to come, Floris Groenewald. What's up, Floris? How you doing?
Hello. Always good to have a drink.
On what day is today? Tuesday?
Don't even know.
I don't know. Well, if you're watching the video with us, cheers. Here's to a good one. I appreciate the fact that you are watching. If you're not watching, I appreciate the fact that you don't. Thanks for listening. So without further ado, I just had to say that I've been wanting to chat to you about things for ages. Even before I got to doing the podcast, I had a plan for interviewing bands and artists and stuff and doing micro features. And then I decided, you're an interesting guy.
I'll take it.
Give you 45 minutes at least, the right time. But just as a brief introduction for the 7 people that might be listening that have no clue who I'm talking to, who are you and what do you do?
Floris Groenewald. Sometimes my friends call me Flo. During the day, mostly to pay the bills, I am a video editor. I work in the film and TV space. And some nights I sing my songs I wrote. Folk rock kind of vibes. Sometimes it's me solo, sometimes it's me with a band.
I like. Yeah, I mean...
Hard to put a box.
Hard to put a box around a creative person is kind of like becoming the norm now. So not only do you function outside of the normal standard box of, oh, what are you going to do? I'm going to study film, then I'm going to become a producer and one day die famous. You dabbling, as you said, in music, in video production, in ads, if I'm not mistaken, series you work on, movies... script writing?
Yeah, a little.
Is there something that you will not do in this industry when it comes to movies, TVs, music?
As you can probably tell, I'm more comfortable behind the camera than in front. I think that's a good general distinction. And then also, like in the TV business, I learned that producing is not really for me. It's something I touch on and I've dabbled with, but it's best for me to steer clear.
What is the one thing you will not go without? Like, what is your favorite bit of your entire life when it comes to work?
Off the top of my head, I have to say the fact that I can occasionally watch a movie and call it work.
You watch a lot of movies.
I do.
Now, we're going to touch on that, but I first want to say, can you please explain to the noobs like me, how do you manage to call it work while watching movies? Is it research or what is it?
Sometimes research, sometimes writing reviews. That's another thing I occasionally do. Writing a movie review is probably the most legitimate form of calling it work, because you literally have to watch this movie and say something about it. But also often other times sort of research as references for something I'm working on or stuff like that.
Now, I must say, your in-depth knowledge of movies is intense. You've done a lot of fun things, like I enjoy your sort of yearly award ceremony. Is that still happening?
I haven't for a while. Don't know. I start these projects and I don't always remember to do it every year.
Can I tell you what I did? I started putting up reminders on my calendar when I've got a good idea for things I want to do annually. Yeah. Like this year on International Pie Day, 14th of March, right? 3141592, that one. I filmed myself attempting to eat an entire pie in 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Now, there's no freaking way I'm going to remember that next year, so I put on my calendar the day before, go and buy a pie for Pie Day. So maybe you should do that.
Yeah. I mean, a great example is the last couple of years, I put a little thing on Instagram where I, for the month of October, recommended a horror/related movie every day on Instagram. And I just decided this year that's too much effort because I have to Photoshop little thing every day, and yeah.
You know what? We want to do the cool thing without doing the bad work.
Yeah.
Isn't that the goal in life? I want to have everything that I do want. I want to do only what I like and not be bothered with the shit I don't.
Yeah. And I mean, the nice thing is if you do these kind of like creative projects without a definite goal on it or without a definite audience, is if you don't feel like it, you could just not do it.
I like that. Freelance lifestyle has got a lot of the freedom for that.
Yeah.
Now, just quickly on your movie vibes, really keen to know, currently, what's your favorite movie in South Africa that South African made?
Oh, that's such a hard one. But first thing I'd like to mention is currently in cinemas, Hans steek die Rubicon oor.
Hansie steek die Rubicon oor.
Hans.
Hans.
Yeah, it's about an old guy, Afrikaans movie, obviously based on a book about an old guy who's forced to move into an old age home, and that's not the life for him, so he rebels against it. Really like a fun movie about aging on your own terms, I think is the overused phrase, but it's not just like a light comedy, but it's also about sort of standing up for important things.
Now, just to position how excited I should be about this, or what your motivation is. Did you work on this movie?
No. I just saw it about a month ago at the Silver Scarm Film Festival. And it's a cool movie. The one sort of motivating factor, I feel like extra motivating factor I want to mention for like watching this is it's the first Afrikaans movie in a while to be in cinemas, to be back on circuit, where a lot of, especially post-pandemic, a lot of them have been going straight to streaming or to box office or whatever. And I think there are people who are looking at this as a measurement of, should we reserve space in the cinema scene for Afrikaans movies? So that's why I really want to encourage people to go watch this and say, like, yeah, I want to see Afrikaans stuff on the big screen.
Well, that kind of sort of answers the question that I had planned for after this, but let's just jump into it. Is there actually still a space for a big screen?
Okay, so
in the world, like, obviously in your life, I mean, you're a cinephile.
And I'm a big fan of the cinema experience. And a part of it is just as simple as going into a dark room, not having a pause button, switching your phone off. There's no distractions. It's you in the movie. Hopefully you in the movie and an audience.
Yes.
Like as a communal experience, enjoying this thing. So like as much as the freedom we've got to watch whatever we want on our TVs at home, like I do think there's still the proper cinema experience is still something different and valuable.
There's
and
something
cool.
meditative almost about not being able to, at least in a socially acceptable way, switch your phone on and be distracted.
Yeah.
Because how often do you sit at home, and I don't know if you struggle to focus, but I have a tremendously short attention span lately. Dude, I mean, I'll be so distracted when I watch a movie that quite often you find yourself rewinding 10 minutes, just, oh shit, what did I miss now?
Yeah. No, I've definitely got that. And like for me personally, it goes through phases where I'm better at focusing and worse at focusing. So like in a phase of my life where I'm really bad at focusing on the TV, I can't watch something with subtitles.
Oh yeah,
because I look at my phone or something and get distracted, and it feels like I'm still following the movie, and then I realize, oh no, I didn't pick up any of the dialogue because I don't understand it.
I've jumped to a next level of distraction because I get distracted from the dialogue by the subtitles that I'm reading, or at least from the movie itself. So I try and it helps me focus to watch a movie without subtitles, because I don't know about you, but it's physically impossible for me to watch a movie and not read the subtitles if they're on there.
Yeah.
I mean, then I miss half the cool cinematography because I'm reading whooshing planes. Oh, fuck, I missed the plane.
Yeah.
But I also kind of stopped watching anime because, on the one hand, I'm the guy that says I refuse to watch dubs. But on the other hand, I cannot for the life of me focus on an episode without having a second screen on.
Yeah. Like I think a big example for me was Squid Game. When Squid Game came out, and it was like I was slightly late on that train, but when everyone was watching it, I'm like, I have to watch it and I have to see what's up. And I was also in a phase where I just like I had a hard time focusing and I kept getting distracted. So I ended up switching on subtitles and the English language dub. So I've got just more chance of following the story. And I found that a really interesting experience because there was a lot of complaints internationally online about how bad the translations were.
Yeah.
That the translations on the subtitles on Squid Game wasn't great. And I realized what they were talking about because often the English voice I hear and the English subtitle is not saying the same thing.
I was so sad that I didn't do that.
Like two different translations.
Because
And then
I didn't want to rewatch the series to get that experience. I can't watch the same series twice, but except for Friends. Shut up. How do you feel about Friends? Okay, so Friends is the greatest series ever made.
just no, like how I feel about it is just I never got into it.
And each to his own, as long as you're not one of those that, I fuck Friends. But completely got derailed from what I wanted to ask. Okay, cinema, sorry. I feel personally, and feel free to argue with me on this. In fact, please do. This is the purpose of a podcast, to have communication about things. But to me, cinema is kind of dead because if I wanted to have a big screen experience, I'd sit closer to my TV. If I wanted to pay 100 Rand for a bag of popcorn, I'd just burn $100 and go make my own popcorn. But I get what you're saying. It actually gave me something to think of now. The more the focus aspect, I think, is literally the only thing that would make me go to the cinema because... that and the group, that's what I want to get to, the group participation. I am so over the fact that you're not allowed to applaud in a cinema. And my favorite cinematic experiences years ago when I still went regularly was going to Stadland. And there you go watch with the more main market crowd, if I can put it that way, that tend to be more exuberant in the cinema. And watching Thor 3D there versus in Brooklyn Mall.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to make a noise in Brooklyn. There we were standing on chairs and cheering when Thor hit people. How do you feel about a participative experience in cinemas, or do you rather want to have people and focus?
That's a tricky one. You're putting me on the hot seat here.
Yes.
No, like what you're describing, I'm a fan of, and that's also why some of the bigger, like the Marvel movies or whatever, I like going on opening night to IMAX. Yes. And usually with those movies, it's usually sold out. The place is full, and you get that because it's the opening night audience who's there for that. There's no spoilers on the internet yet. Like all the surprises in the movie is fresh, and you're experiencing that with the crowd. And yes, people cheer when Spider-Man catches the girl, which is like 10 years overdue.
Yes.
Like it's a major moment, and you're experiencing with the crowd for which it's an important major moment, and you get that. You get cheering and I don't think it's overdone in my experience in those kind of screenings. It's not people disrupting the movie, but it's people giving a whoop or a clap or
sharing
whatever
experience
in a like it all almost feels involuntary to me, almost like the noise left someone's mouth before they could catch themselves.
Yeah,
but
that
it's
is the true
because
experience.
they're really into it, and that's great. At the same time, when I'm in the cinema, I always feel like just switch off your phone. You can live without it for 2 hours.
There's no space for me in that sense. Don't call your girlfriend at home to say this movie's great, bitch. I wish you were here.
Yeah. Or even, and I feel like maybe I'm being a little bit pedantic here, but it annoys the hell out of me when there's just a light from someone's phone down the road or from someone's smartwatch. I don't know smartwatches if you're able to like switch that off, but
I have
but
had
that
the
should
thought
be
years ago because I used to do cinema relatively regularly, like 9 movies a week at a stage, right? When, sorry, Eastgate for stealing some of your profits at a stage, but we figured out to stay inside the cinema and slip in behind the Edgar's by the servants' entrance to go and watch like 3 free movies every Tuesday night. Sorry, guys, I was 19. Don't hold it against me. But point is, what was my freaking point? Oh, the lights thing. I had this thought, right? I mean, later on when cell phones became a big thing, and so reserve the rear 2 rows, just the last 2 rows, for people that want to be on their phones. you know, but silently, of course. But you know, if you go and sit there, it's allowable, and you can sit there as long as it's quiet.
Yeah.
But if I sit there and I see 7 little lights there, I'm thinking Wakanda's coming for me, you know.
Yeah, and I mean that's also like for me a major thing about the cinema experience is as ridiculous as it sounds, I'm able to kind of switch off the real world and just be into the movie and be into the experience. And it's the smallest thing, like a little light shining there, that pulls you out of it. It goes like, oh, what's happening there?
Fantasy, well, I suppose anything that you tend to watch. I want to get with you into conversations about genres and favorite directors and stuff, but I feel I don't really want to go that way today. I'm very keen to hear more about your academic sense of experiencing cinema and so forth. But for me right now, what I'm most curious about is how would you say you take your enjoyment experience of cinema and translate that into a Kabaal Klankbaan experience on stage?
So like, I don't know if I always do it consciously, and I don't know if I always achieve it, but I think from that same side of my brain, I like trying to deliver a theatrical performance, a theatrical stage show. It's and I think with someone like me who often is alone with an acoustic guitar on a stage, it's easy to blend into that. Don't want to offend anyone now. I'm not going to name names, but to blend into that generic cover artist guy who's singing in the background of a pub while you're trying to have a beer and you kind of want him to shut up and whatever.
Even if you don't want him to shut up, that is still a valid career.
Yeah. No. Nothing wrong with that guy, but that's just it. Always feels like that's not what I do. Yeah. And looking the way I look as a solo guy, I kind of feel like white male adds to it. But just that look, a solo guy with an acoustic guitar on the stage, that's kind of what people expect, and I want to put on a show that tells you that's not who I am.
Yeah, you don't generally see this walk up and do something, how can I say, traditional. You're not going to step up and sing socky songs necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I do appreciate about your music. It really seems narrative. There's a story to be told in most of your songs, and but also quite an artistic glimpse into who you are, I believe, as a person.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also, I always think of my songs as a blend between a narrative, probably fictional, and kind of autobiographical. Like you can't. I don't think you can ever have one without the other, or me at least. All the songs I've written, I think, have some blend of both those sides. But I like for the line of how much of each side there is to be ambiguous.
So like that people can kind of still have the freedom to read into a song what they want to. Space between what you felt and what you made up. I mean, like, as an example, I've got a song called Robot Girlfriend, which is favorites, just by the way.
Which is about building a robot girlfriend so she would never leave you. And I think that's one of my more obvious, mostly fictional songs, but it still comes from a. I've
followed you on Twitter for ages, bro. I know that song is mostly autobiographical.
It still comes from a serious autobiographical place, and the expression of those feelings is ridiculous and funny and fictional. But I like for how much of me is in each song and how much it's a story I made up to never be answered, to be left up to the audience to feel what they feel and think what they think, and etc.
There has to be that space for own interpretation, I believe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your song is a lecture.
Yeah.
Or even worse, it's like just an autobiography of look at me and let me tell you about me.
Yeah, which both those things I feel like I'm a little terrified of. I read this quote online somewhere recently that said, I'm gonna get it completely wrong now, but it's something like, artists an artist lives in the conflict between wanting to be hidden and wanting to be seen.
Yes, I can see that.
And I think that's what it comes down to is I want to be able to express my sincere thoughts and feelings, but I don't want people to read my diary.
That is the difficult thing. Like in my recent podcast with Pedro Barbosa, right? Go and watch it if you haven't yet, by the way. I spoke to him specifically about the fact that he is exceptionally straightforwardly open about very personal things when he writes a song versus a lot of other artists. Like, for instance, you tend to, as you say, hide that in the fantasy and rephrase, reword that in a creative manner to get to your Robot Girlfriend song, for instance. I still have the t-shirt, by the way. I would have worn it today, but it literally went to the laundromat today because I wore it like 2 days ago. So get Floris merch. Kabaal Klankbaan merch, by the way. Floris merch would be interesting. No, but I mean, so sorry, the Robot Girlfriend song, you almost give something humorous to, well, you fully give something fully humorous to address a very serious topic. Is there any other songs from yours that come to mind that you can say, yes, look at this example, it's a seemingly frivolous song, but with a much deeper meaning?
Nothing coming to mind. Like there are examples, but I'm blanking.
You and me, I would have asked more straightforward. Do you think this song is? But the song, it was on a EP that you still released at the what's that little theater in Linwood? I went there, the one.
Aspos.
Yes, and there's a song that you wrote on that album that I listened to like 70 times, and the name is like out of my mind now. Like I feel an idiot.
Album's called Baptism.
Okay,
not that helps.
What's
but
the song on? No.
Player 2? Is it Player 2?
Spoken Player 2, one of my favorite songs that you wrote, bro.
Yeah.
There we go. After a long and extensive chat about what the song was, I finally got to it. Again, Player 2, expressing this innermost desire to, will you be my Player 2? Which I do believe is kind of like, if I understand correctly, your way of saying I need a girlfriend.
Yeah. It's a longing for a partner, but also, I mean, that song specifically is about someone who was that Player 2 and is no longer. It's about ever since you went away and those kind of things. And at the same time mixing that sort of personal narrative with the idea of video games and Mario looking for Princess Peach.
What your simile there is beautiful, and how you write. It really seems that you're writing more, I think, in the first place for yourself to get the things out, right? Or do you write primarily for the listener so that they can get something in?
I feel like I'm not. I feel like I'm not good enough of a writer to do the latter. I'm also not a very prolific songwriter. So like I go through long periods where I just don't write anything, and then every now and then something just comes and I write that. So I feel like it's generally, I guess, unfortunately, about me and something in here that wants to come out, and
hey,
that's how it comes out.
About how much people like you, because it's one thing for people to listen to a song that was written for them, versus now for people to listen to songs that was written essentially for you, and they say, you know what, this dude sounds cool enough, let's listen to his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think when writing sort of from that place, you're gonna have to hope that someone identifies with it, and I think that is a major hope for me with the music I put out and the songs I put out is that my best dream would be that someone listens to my music and just feels a little less alone, just feels like, oh, I get this, I've been there, or hey, someone else also feels the way I feel, thinks the way I think, that kind of thing. It's like I think that's a primary, and also not only with my music, but with other people's music and with art in general, is that's one of the most powerful things, is just going without literally saying something, going like, hey, here's an experience, maybe you identify with it, maybe we're not so separate, maybe we're all part of the same kind of thing.
Now, with these songs being so intensely personal on the one hand, and you occasionally playing with a band and not just being the solo guitarist on stage covering Kabaal Klankbaan songs. How do you feel the band plays into the mix? When are they more like, okay, listen, I treat this as a session, or do they get to experience and feel what you felt with the music before they get to give that on stage performance with the songs?
I always kind of hope for the communal thing, for the we are a complete team, absolutely on the same page doing this thing. But I think unfortunately in my case it's never 100% been there. And mostly because I was doing this as a solo thing for so long before I ever did a band thing. It was like 5 or 6 years before I even attempted a band ever, which means it's always someone else coming into an existing thing. And there is unfortunately the very limited space for really emotionally investing in the thing.
Yeah, unless they take ownership of the band themselves to the point that you have, and let's be honest, that's never going to happen with the solo project turned band.
Yeah. I mean, as much as there is space for that and there is hope for that, they're always going to be a tier below me in terms of emotional attachment and investment to the material.
Well, I reckon that's also a good thing, because that means that you are the one that pushes the drive and the direction of the band, and the rest of the guys can focus solely on playing their songs good.
Yeah. Hope so.
I hope so too. Now, listen, one thing that I do admire about you tremendously is that you seem to be walking a relatively public road with when it comes to your mental health and mental state. Certainly a bit more open, I think, a few years ago, but I remember, seeing your tweets about, fuck it, I really need a girlfriend, and said in 17 different ways every now and then, and openly speaking about sometimes feeling lonely. And so, how's that going for you?
So I always feel like a little icky with the whole mental health brand because like things like depression or whatever is not something that I've ever like been diagnosed with or like legit or officially suffer from or whatever. But it's one of those feelings that's out there, I think, for like most people. Those kind of things, and I've always found it important to talk about it, and especially on things like social media. There's a lot of, you hear every now and then people say, you have to remember that like social media does not reflect reality, and just because someone's life looks amazing doesn't mean that it is amazing. And I try my best to remind myself of that every now and then, and go like, also post something on the bad days. Like if I'm having a down day, I try to not hide that. I try to be open about that. Like,
That's
yeah,
essence of being real.
yeah,
No
and
one's life is just good.
yeah,
But I mean, I must admit, there was a time when we were a bit worried about you. Legit. But I'm literally talking, yes, dude, years ago, and you were going through some shit, I assume, and I do think social media might play a good space then for friends to find cues to support you. Have you found friends support you because of things that you might have said publicly and they come to you in private?
I feel like that's an odd thing, and I also feel like that as much as something like social media is a space to maybe express those kind of ideas, it's not a great place to actually have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Has social media in any sense helped you though deal with things in your life like that, or is it mostly
I think in a big way those kind of things can be a sort of a shouting into the void kind of thing, an expression of thoughts, an expression of ideas, and pushing it out, and it may be kind of ending there. Yeah.
So, taking a look at your personal growth in the last, let's say, 10 years of your life, how would you say have you started to deal better with, emotional struggles and so forth? And if so, how?
For me personally, I think it's just about every day getting to know yourself better and identifying things like triggers and what's it called, like solutions, like soothing things or mechanisms to push through those things. Like one thing I've identified, which I feel like is the luckiest thing in the world, is sometimes when I'm just down, I have noticed that singing helps me feel better.
Yo, that is lucky, because if it made you feel worse, being a musician would not have been for you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just picking up a guitar and being by myself and singing a song is a good, like, pick me up. And again, I feel hesitant to speak too much about these things because this is not doctor recommended advice. This is not clinical or professional, but in my personal life, it's those kind of things that helps to just know, hey, this is gonna make me feel terrible. Maybe I should not do that.
Well, I think it's just sage advice to say that if something makes you feel better, do more of that.
Yeah.
The journey is to find what is that.
Yeah, and also I think, again, not because it's not a problem for me. I don't want to sort of say it as a blanket thing, because I think that can very easily get you into sort of an instant remedy that has long-term bad effects or put you down
severe Schedule 3 depression. Buy a guitar, play the song. That will work 100% of the time.
Yeah, or I mean, in a sort of a worst case scenario kind of thing is getting drunk is probably not a good solution to dealing with your stuff. Where it might sort of help you feel better and get you through a night or whatever.
Temporary solutions are just that. And unfortunately, a lot of temporary solutions come with long-term problems themselves.
Yeah. But then at the same time, I also think there's things like going through ups and downs and realizing that it's a pattern. It's down now, but it always turns around eventually. And even though you can't see the turn right now, there is a turn coming, because there's always a turn coming. And again, now, like, speaking for my own sort of emotional roller coaster, but it's to me, I think, often in identifying those things and just getting to know your own system and your own state and your own ups and downs and what's good and what's bad and how to push through things and all of those things.
One thing that does stand out about you that I think I always see, when I see you, you've got a relatively strong core group of friends surrounding you. There's people that always tend to be nice to you. Now, personally, I don't know if that reaches out into your personal life, but how would you rate your group of friends out of 10? No. How would you rate the support the importance of support from friends when it comes to difficult times in your life? Or is that more a, let's deal with it in my own way in my own time?
Mix. I think I'm definitely a kind of person who has a small number of really good friends, and that helps to sort of just like be really tight with a handful of people. But again, that's such a sort of personal thing. I think that's so like unrelatable, because it's because I'm this specific sort of introvert person, and a lot of like again, no offense to someone who has a million friends, because those kind of things works for them,
But for a lot of people that might be listening to the podcast that find themselves in a similar boat to you, because believe it or not, you are relatable to quite a substantial number of people on this planet. I believe that a lot of people can learn from the introverts, for instance.
Yeah.
Sometimes us slight extroverts, it's me, need to learn to shut the fuck up, for instance, or think before we speak, or value more personal relationships over group relationships. that I've found is in stereotypical introverts something that you do naturally. You find more solace in the personal than in the public. That's something that's fucking scary to a lot of extroverts. So if there's one thing, let's make this deep and serious. If you, I don't know how much you classify yourself as an introvert, but I think it's roughly on the one side of the scale, could teach all extroverts in the world one thing that you want us to realize about introverts, what would that be?
Ooh,
No pressure.
ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one, but a small one as well, I think. Because there's a lot of thoughts that go with it, but I think a big thing to distill it down to is it's a simple personality difference, and it's okay. If someone prefers to spend their Friday nights at home, it doesn't mean they're sad and lonely.
Yeah.
It just means they prefer to spend their Friday nights alone. I think for people on the opposite side of the spectrums, it's hard to really relate to understand the other person, but largely I feel like it just boils down to that's their way of that's my way of being happy and being chill and doing the thing that yeah, makes me happy, and understanding that and not trying to change them and not trying to impose your way of thinking or living or being on them.
Yeah, and kind of just respect the space. But why can't we as extroverts ever tell you, listen, bro, liven the fuck up, talk a bit more, I'm feeling lonely, and you're sitting right next to me? There's a lot of musicians in your position because a lot of artists are introverted. A lot of artists find themselves in this enclosed space that, you know, they've been playing guitar in their bedroom for so long, for instance, and they don't have necessarily the personality to just say, let me find a stage. Well, people like me were like on stage and then figured out, oh shit, what are we going to do here?
Yeah,
My life
yeah.
is a freaking stage. How would you say have you managed to take that step from being introverted yet still being able to give a very public, very open, very honest, entertaining performance on a stage with people watching?
I have no idea. But it is a thing. It's like every now and then I catch myself thinking. There's that thing about like if you had a time machine, you could speak to your like 16-year-old self or whatever. Yeah. My 16-year-old self would not believe that I regularly / occasionally get on a stage and sing songs in front of people because it's so foreign, and I don't really know how that transition happened. But I think part of it is I played music and I went to a lot of like music gigs and festivals and things, and kept thinking that looks like a lot of fun. That was enough motivation to push myself to do it and to try it, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you think the fact that you are not Floris on stage has anything to do with that? You are Kabaal Klankbaan.
Partly. I think that same thing about the songwriting and the blending the two halves of where those things come from, I think also play a role in sort of just stage personality. It's been a while since I've had this specific thought, but now that you mention it, there was a time where I would go on stage, I would do my show, and I would love the show, and the moment I end my last song, I would feel so uncomfortable. Because now I'm just the guy who's standing on a stage, and I have to do this awkward thing where I put down my guitar and I leave the stage, but people are still watching, and I don't want them to watch because, and I'm just a guy. Yeah, and so I do think there is that thing of finding something and switching that on when you're on stage, and maybe switching it off when you leave the stage. And
I reckon that balance is exceptionally good to attain, and a lot of younger musos that I work with, especially the open mics, you know, you can see they're in that early phase where you were probably a couple of years ago, finding themselves on stage versus finding yourself off stage is a completely different experience. And I must say, seeing you grow as a muso and as a person through your stage experience has been kind of cool. Because you don't know it, but I think there's a lot of people that actually watch you. I mean, it's not like we talk every week, but I value your insets when it comes to entertainment, film. We actually follow the things that you say. I've never in my entire life, for instance, taken a Barry Ronge, the review serious. It's always funny to me. But I've gone to see movies that you've recommended based on the fact that I feel that you put yourself out there as an entertainer, as an cinematic influencer. So thanks for that.
But I mean, I also think on that note that my approach to those kind of things is very like viewing things through my lens, through my eyes. If I write a review or I talk about a movie or something, I want to tell you what my experience was so that you can get an idea of what your experience might be. But I try my best to not go like, you're going to love this, it's amazing.
I like that because, you know, that is in essence why I actually dared code the way of calling you a cinematographic, a movie influencer, right? Words. Is because I think one finds relatability in you as a person and therefore can take seriously what you say. Actually, at this point, I think it's time that we go into the only real purpose that I had for bringing you onto this podcast. Do you currently have a significant other in your existence?
No.
Are you currently looking for someone like that?
Probably.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for the closing of this Baascast, featuring Floris Groenewald, aka Kabaal Klankbaan, the cinematographic influencer, the band member, muso, storytelling poet with a guitar. This is his very own game show, aka Find Love for Floris. So we're going to end this podcast with a quick little cheesy 1970s style dating profile, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Are there three girls hiding somewhere that I'm about to meet?
Right under this. No. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be asking you a few dating type profile questions, which you will be, for the viewer's benefit, looking straight and awkwardly into the camera. You'll be answering the questions, and we'll be publishing that video as a dating profile video for you. And we're going to see if in the next month, how many girls can we get to ask you out on a date? How's that for a deal?
Sounds good.
Fantastic. There we go. I just want to give a legal disclaimer at this point that he had no idea this is happening. I apologize in advance if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And you out there, dear listener, watcher, consumer of media, please partake in this experience by sharing this video, sharing this podcast, and making sure that we find love for Floris. That should be the hashtag, right? Find love for Floris.
Yeah. It's got a ring to it.
Now, let's just start by doing the obvious introduction. You have to say how old you are, where you live.
Okay.
Not the actual address.
Aww.
Just the area.
That would make things way simpler. just show up to my house. My name is Floris. My friends call me Flo. I'm 35, and I live in Joburg, in London, currently.
And for a living, what do you do?
Whatever people pay me to do. I'm a video editor, mostly.
That makes music and make people feel happy.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm helping you with this profile.
In short, I manipulate people's emotions for money.
So if you want to manipulate your own feelings to feel better about yourself, date this guy next to me. What do you like in life? Let's start. Drink-wise, what do you drink? What do you enjoy?
I drink way too much Coca-Cola. Occasionally a vintage draft or a whiskey.
Do you do any shots or so?
Yes, I enjoy them on occasion when I'm not driving.
Tequila or Jager?
Either depends on the night. I'm not against either. I thoroughly enjoy both.
Are you a smoker?
No, not at all.
And tell me, do you enjoy anything like particularly exceptionally in life? For instance, cinema?
I'm a big lover of movies. I go to the cinema an unhealthy amount.
What is your favorite genre of movie?
I love a good coming-of-age story.
How would you go about making a date night special for the person that is interested in you right now? First date.
Here's I've got a good tip for everyone else out there. This is not about me. This is about sharing tips. Open the door for her.
So if you want to have doors opened in your life, date this fella next to me. Hashtag find love for Floris. Tell me, what is your favorite holiday destination?
I'm definitely more of a bush guy than a beach guy. This pale skin's not a lover of sun. But number one favorite holiday is a music festival.
That is a good idea. If you have doors opened in your life, they might lead to music festivals. Now, let's talk about the girl you have in mind. Wait, is the girl, is the guy? What are we talking about?
I think I have a preference for the ladies.
Great. Ladies, sorry, gentlemen. Let's talk about your perfect match. Do you have any physical attributes that you find exceptionally adorable?
A nice smile.
I've got one of those, but I also have boobs. Nice smile, ladies. Here's one for you. What are your big, hard no-nos in a relationship? The big red flag that says no.
Oh. The jealous type. Any kind of who are you texting? That kind of thing.
You haven't answered my WhatsApp in 17 seconds.
Yeah. Although I'm reasonably good at answering WhatsApps in 17
You
seconds.
are very good with time, by the way.
But and punctuality.
Yeah. He was here 5 minutes earlier than he should have been for the podcast recording, while I was 5 minutes late. So well done to you. Now, in closing, give us one motivational thought. Why should someone date you?
On occasion, I can be funny.
That is the best answer ever, because women like to laugh, but if they really did, wouldn't all clowns be happy?
We were headed for greatness, and now it's
Don't
down
worry.
in the dumps
I
again.
just put myself in undiagnosed depression because that's all I had going for me.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, thank you so much. We are going to find you a date. # find love for Floris. And in the meanwhile, thank you so much for sharing your innermost thoughts with us. Anything else? What's happening that people must be aware of now that they can look forward to before we say farewell? Go into your week with a good smile on your face.
We've got a new album coming out. I think that's the major thing. Kabaal Klankbaan album called Ek Steeds Onstabiel. Dropping on 17th of November and wherever you find your music.
Kabaal Klankbaan album coming out 17th of November. If you don't have any Kabaal Klankbaan merch or music, do yourself a favor, get on the lines, Google the fella, click on the link below. Dude, Floris, thanks so much for joining us. I've been meaning to chat to you, and you have not disappointed at all.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
High fives.
Thank you for listening to this Baascast, and thank you so much Audio Torch for sponsoring the camera gear.